All right, hey everybody. Welcome to November 12th's MakerDAO community call. We do these community calls every Tuesday. We usually go through the MakerDAO universe. We go through governance events. We go through interesting milestones, highlights from the community, just highlighting stuff from our own blog post, from other people's articles, from Reddit. I kind of I spend a few hours every Monday kind of scraping together all of the interesting stuff that's been going on in our world. And I presented here. But also, besides that, we have been getting a lot of guests lately. So I always am trying to get interesting guests on the call. And so today, it's going to be specific to the upcoming multi-collateral Dai migration. So I actually invited Nikolai Lolike here to the call. He's on our integrations team here at the Maker Foundation. And so I think that there's actually quite a few Maker people here. I know Marka, Andre Dumas is here, Lank is here, Maria's here. So a bunch of us from the team are here. And I hope a bunch more people are on their way. Yeah, it looks like a pretty good call. So I'm going to be giving it over to Nikolai. Is it Nikolai or Nikolaj? Tell me.
It's the Hikalai. So
Nikolai. Yeah. All right, got it. Well, yeah. So feel free to introduce yourself and get into what you're gonna get into.
Sure. Thanks for the nice intro, David. I'm just gonna share my screen. So let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. And I'm full screen here, so if there's someone who's writing some questions in the chat, then David or someone else from the Maker team, please feel free to interrupt me. But yeah, let's get started. I'm Nikolai from the integrations team, and we have been gearing up for the launch of multi-collateral Dai, and specifically migration from single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai the past few months, since it was announced in Osaka that MCD was going live on November 18, which is very soon. And we have been in touch with a lot of integration partners regarding how they should tackle supporting the new system. But I realized that this might also be very interesting for the broader community, because a lot of these partners that we work with, they offer services that you use. So centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, and different dApps that have integrated Dai, they obviously have different processes for how they're going to support multi-collateral Dai. So that's some of that I will go into, but also obviously, as a completely regular single collateral Dai holder, or if you have a CDP, then there's also some steps that you need to take in order to make use of the new system. So that's basically some of the points that I will be going to cover today. And then also just some basic information regarding the launch, when you can expect MCD to be live, and essentially what you need to know about the launch about multi-collateral Dai. So that's basically the agenda of today, that I'm going to talk about the launch of MCD, and then I'm going to talk about migration from single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai, and then we'll have time for some questions. So a little bit about me and the integrations team at Maker first. So at Maker, we have a lot of different teams working on different things. In the integrations team, our main task is basically to help organizations or companies integrate Dai and different aspects of the Maker protocol. So we have a really badass business development team at Maker who finds really interesting partners who can help us drive the adoption of Dai as this unbiased global currency. And when they need to basically implement a Dai or the Maker protocol into their own systems, then they will often be in touch with us at the integrations team to kind of help them in terms of figuring out the best way to integrate Dai or CDPs or vaults, as they're called in MCD, or any other aspect of the protocol. Currently, we have around 400 live integrations, so 400 companies or projects who have integrated Dai or the Maker protocol, and we have 60 ongoing projects. So this has been growing quite a lot in 2019. I think we've added 200 partners to that list. So it's quite a substantial amount of partners that we have needed to engage in terms of getting them ready to support multi-collateral Dai. And we've been hard at work in the integrations team to kind of reach out to most of our partners, and at least some of the biggest ones in terms of Dai volume and user base. So that's just to say that the launch of MCD is actually quite a big thing in a huge ecosystem of partners who are already integrating with the existing system. Not only do users need to migrate from single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai, there's actually a lot of big companies and projects that also have to migrate for this upcoming launch. So it's all very exciting, but there's also been a lot of work to do. So this launch of multi-collateral Dai, what's going to happen? What's new, basically? Well, on November 18, we're going to launch this brand new version of the Maker protocol that is coined multi-collateral Dai, or MCD for short.
And hold on, and this is of course pending the November 15th governance vote, right? So
yeah.
there is still definitely a non-zero chance that there is just some disagreement or something that has to change before the launch. Totally within the realm of possibility, but as it looks right now, yes, November 18th.
Yeah, so I will dive into that a bit more, but at least there's a high chance that we're going to launch on Monday. But nonetheless, MCD will have a lot of new features, where some of them are a new Dai token and a new logo for the new Dai token. We're going to support multiple vault collateral types. So this is where the multi-collateral comes in. At launch, the protocol will support ETH and BAT as collateral types. And then as the governance process scales up over the coming months, then more collateral types will be added. But at launch, it will be ETH and BAT. Then we're also launching the Dai savings rate, which is essentially allows anyone who is holding Dai to earn savings by using the Dai savings rate smart contract or the savings service that the Maker Foundation is going to provide. Some of the other things that are quite neat about the new protocol, which is not highlighted as much, is that we have some new peg insuring mechanisms that are a lot more robust than in the current system. So this is essentially that MKR will finally become this backstop for Black Swan events. So MKR dilution will be able to maintain the peg if there's some sort of crazy crash in some collateral type price feed. Another thing is that stability fees in the new system will be paid in Dai, and it will accrue continuously. So in the current system, you will pay down a stability fee every time you repay some single collateral Dai. But in multi-collateral Dai, you will automatically pay your stability fee every block, as your debt will just increase every block. An important note here is that there's no changes to the MKR token, and the governance process is the same, at least for now. So the launch of MCD does not change anything regarding the MKR tokens or how you vote. So that's an important point to note. So one of the main things is that since we are deploying a new Dai token, then from November 18, we will have basically two Dai tokens in circulation, and that's obviously going to cause some confusion. So the foundation has decided that from November 18, the single collateral Dai token will be referred to as Psi, and the multi-collateral Dai token will be referred to as Dai. And the reasoning is basically that we would like to keep the Dai name for the token going forward, but also multi-collateral Dai is really this final version of the system that will finally be deployed, where single collateral Dai kind of was this beta version that has been running for 2 years. And internally and in the code, this implementation has always been referred to as Psi, actually. And since the single collateral Dai system will probably at one point be shut down, this is again pending governance and how it goes, but since it will probably be shut down at some point, then we think it makes sense to let the new multi-collateral Dai token hold the Dai name and the Dai brand. So this is obviously something that we have tried to communicate with all our integration partners. So this change will be reflected in as many services as possible from November 18. So going into the launch timeline, as David noted, on November 15, there's going to be a governance vote that essentially will determine if multi-collateral Dai will launch on November 18. At the same time, the smart contract addresses of MCD will be made public at changelog.makerdao.com. So this is a website that we use to track the different deployments of MCD on testnets, but you will also be able to find the mainnet smart contracts there from November 15 and onwards if there are new deployments of the system. I can give a little note here, and that is that if you're looking specifically for the new Dai token, then that one is called MCD_Dai under smart contracts. I think that's the one that a lot of people are looking for. And November 18, if the governance vote decides that MCD should be launched, then MCD will go live at approximately 4 p.m. UTC. And this is hard-coded into the spell that will be cast that the system cannot go live anytime before 4 p.m. UTC. So if the vote is passed so that MCD will launch, then it will probably be launched around or shortly after 4 p.m. UTC on November the 18th.
So I have a quick question about that. Nick. So when it's launched, when you say it's launched, does that mean just the smart contracts? What about the front ends on the foundation side?
Yeah, so I will actually mention that a bit later, but the front ends will be live from that point in time as well. They will actually be live a few hours before that, but they will have like a countdown. And actually, what is going to happen here on November 18, so I can actually take it on this slide, but essentially the system will be deployed in advance, but the debt ceiling of multi-collateral Dai will be set to 0 until that governance vote that essentially launches multi-collateral Dai has passed and has been triggered. Then the debt ceiling will be adjusted so you can actually use the system. So the smart contracts will be known at least 3 days in advance. And yeah, the spell that will be cast by the governance vote simply just has a timer that does not allow it to be cast before 4 p.m. on November 18. So on November 18, single collateral Dai will be renamed to Psi. And the MCD system, if the governance vote has passed, then it will be live at around 4 p.m. UTC. The migration contract and the migration app, which I will go into later, and the different Maker front ends will also be live at this time. And as I said before, from the get-go, only ETH and BAT will be supported as collateral in the system. Here's a few of the launch parameters. There's a pretty good forum post made by Cyrus regarding all the parameters that the system will launch with, that you can find at forum.makerdao.com. But just to take a few of the main parameters, then the new system will have a debt ceiling of 153 million Dai, and that is split into 100 million single collateral Dai that will be moving over, and then 50 million in ETH and 3 million in BAT. And the system will launch with a Dai savings rate at around 2%, so or it at 2%, not around 2%. So from the get-go, you should be able to lock Dai in savings mode and earn 2% from the launch date. The stability fee will also for ETH be 1% lower than the current stability fee and the existing system will be, and that's essentially to incentivize that people will use the new system rather than the old one.
I believe the stability fee for BAT is also, it's going to be the same. So for the sake of simplicity, they're going to have the same parameters, the same 150% collateralization ratio, same stability fee, all that at first.
Yeah. And as you were touching upon, David, the front ends for MCD will be live on November 18 as well. But there is a big change here as well, and that is that we are rebranding the front ends from the Maker Foundation to all be within the Oasis brand. So the new CDP portal or Vault portal will be on oasis.app, and the Dai savings rate app will also be found here. They also have new names. So Oasis Buhoro will be the front end where you can create vaults, so you can deposit Ether and BAT and draw Dai against your collateral. And then we have Oasis Save, which is where you can deposit your Dai and earn savings. And then there is Oasis Trade, which is already live, which is a rebranding of Oasis Dex. But all of these front ends, should be live if the system goes live, which we obviously hope and think it will.
Right on.
So that was a bit about the launch. So now I'm going to talk a bit about migration. So why is migration needed in the first place? Well, basically because the new Maker protocol is an entirely new smart contract system, then we need to deploy new smart contracts, which will have new smart contract addresses and new APIs. And it's simply not possible to just patch the old system. That's, the nature of decentralized applications. So this means that any partner who has created some implementation interacting with the old protocol, they need to update their implementation if they want to support the new protocol. Also, because we are launching a new token, then people will basically need to migrate from the single collateral Dai token to the new multi-collateral Dai token. So that's basically and then obviously if you are a CDP owner now in the single collateral Dai system and you want to move your CDP over to the new system, then you must also do that. But in order to make the migration of single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai and CDPs to vaults easy, then the smart contracts team has created this migration contract, and with that also a migration app that should make this very easy for any users. So this migration app will be available at launch at migrate.makerdao.com. And it will be a very simple to use front end that allows you to migrate any of your holdings of Psi to Dai. So you'll be able to input how much Psi you want to turn into Dai and basically submit a transaction, and then the migration is carried out. And similarly for CDPs, you will be able to select your CDP and basically just choose to migrate that, and then the migration contract will take care of all the heavy lifting underneath. This migration app will support MetaMask, Ledger, Trezor, Wallet Link, and Wallet Connect. At least there might be other implementations out there who have sort of input their own Web3 provider, but at least these are the ones that we support in the front end that we're going to launch. We also have a command line guide if you want to carry out this migration yourself. So we have created a guide that essentially shows you how you can interact with the smart contracts directly if you want to do something a little bit more sophisticated with a bot or something like that can trigger migration automatically. But for 99% of users, migrate.makerdao.com will be the place to go. So this is an old screenshot of what the migration app will look like. I'm going to demo it a little bit later, but essentially, this is not the final design. I know that our design and product team has been working hard on finalizing this, but essentially you will be met with some different options. Once you log in with your wallet, it will scan if you have any old CDPs or single collateral Dai, and then it will essentially take you through a wizard of upgrading to the new system. Then a little bit about single collateral Dai and the timeline for that. Single collateral Dai will continue to run for a foreseeable time. It depends a bit on how migration goes and ultimately what the MKR governors decide. So this is a question that we get a lot, like, oh, is the single collateral Dai going to shut down next month or something? So far, that's not the case. We're looking at probably a longer timeline. So there should be ample time to carry out migration. So it's not like you have to, on November 18, migrate immediately. Obviously, we encourage swift support of the new MCD system, and especially within our partners, we would like to see them supported within 2 weeks. But it's not like if you do not do this, that single collateral Dai will be shut down within like the next month. This will be communicated well in advance, and we don't really have a specific timeline for this right now. So for now, SCD will continue to run, and single collateral Dai will still be a stablecoin. But eventually, the incentive to keep it running will probably diminish, and it will probably be shut down. There's not something that we can guarantee. This is up to the MKR holders. But these are also some of the considerations that we have taken, have thought about when we have provided some migration guidelines for our partners. So based on that, we have created some migration guidelines. I'm probably not going to dive into all of them into detail. I think some of them might be interesting for you to hear about, since you might be the user of some of these services. Obviously, we cannot guarantee that all of our partners will follow these guidelines, but a lot, at least, exchanges are following the guidelines that we have proposed. So it will give you an idea of what you can expect from partners and their timelines for supporting MCD. So again, some thought processes around migration. Since single collateral Dai probably will be shut down at one point in the future, we want to avoid that there's some idle users who essentially would lose money. So when we create these guidelines, we have thought about how can we carry over as many users as we can automatically. We've also thought about how can we drive adoption of the new system and the new token, basically lessening the incentive to stay on single collateral Dai. We've also thought about the user experience, what would be the easiest for the end user. And then we've been in touch with a lot of integration partners on how we could ensure the smoothest process for everyone. And again, these are our proposals for how these partners should carry out migration. Obviously, it's really hard to quantify 400 integration partners and all of those implementations into, specific guidelines. So, I mean, these are fairly high level, and they're certainly not the only way that you can carry out migration. So yeah, basically, if you are a SAI holder today, then what you need to do on November 18, if you carry or hold SAI in a wallet where you control the private key, then you should go to migrate.makerdao.com, log in with your wallet, and then basically go through this migration process that will be presented to you. So you should click on the Signal Collateral Dai Redeemer tab, enter the amount of SAI that you want to upgrade, and then submit a transaction. And then you should receive multi-collateral Dai in your wallet. So that should be a fairly easy process. However, if you hold a single collateral Dai in a wallet where you do not control the private key, then we suggest that you try to follow the instructions that are given by the service provider. So we have been in touch with a lot of custodial wallets and centralized exchanges, and they might do the migration process for you. So I would look into what your specific service is going to do regarding migration. However, if they do not offer migration, then if you want to migrate, then you should withdraw SAI to a wallet where you control the private key and then carry out migration yourself.
And also, before redepositing that new Dai that you acquired into your previous custodial wallet, make sure that they actually support it, because sometimes it might just be totally invisible from the front end, and you're gonna think you lost your coins, and that's just not a fun time.
Yeah, that's a very important point. So yeah, it's very important that you kind of keep up to date on what your service provider offers. Yeah. For a CDP owner, we have this neat chart. So similarly to the SAI holder, if you want to migrate your CDP to the new multi-collateral Dai vault, then you need to go to migrate.makerdao.com as well, log in with your wallet. Then you will be presented with a list of your CDPs that you can migrate, and you can essentially click on it and click migrate. And then you submit a transaction. Now, if you have a regular size CDP, so let's say under 10,000 Dai in debt, then you should be able to move over no problem. But if you have a larger CDP, with substantial debt, then this transaction might fail. And that might be because there's not enough liquidity in the migration contract. So this is a little bit more technical, and I suggest that if you do have a large CDP, that you look at our migration guides to kind of understand how CDP migration works. But essentially, the users who hold SAI and migrate over to Dai, they are depositing their SAI into the migration contract, which is actually creating one large CDP in the new system, where the migration contract uses SAI as collateral to mint Dai. And then this SAI that has been deposited into this contract is actually used for CDP migration. So what happens is that when you want to migrate your CDP, you actually give custody of your CDP to the migration contract, which will then use the single collateral Dai deposited into this contract for the Dai migration of other users. The contract will use the single collateral Dai to pay down the debt of your CDP, release the collateral, and then in the same transaction, create a vault in MCD. So lock that collateral in an MCD vault, and then to draw the same amount of Dai, so you have the same debt. And then essentially that Dai, the newly minted Dai, is burned because it has already been migrated over and is already in circulation from the side to Dai migration. This can be a little hard to grasp, so if this is something that you're interested in, I suggest that you dive into the migration guide. But this is just to say that this single collateral Dai or Psi liquidity provided in this contract will be used over time for CDP migration. So if you have a CDP with like a debt of 400,000 Psi, then there might not be enough liquidity at the point in time when you try to migrate to pay down this debt. But in the UI, we are going to show how much Psi liquidity there is. So you should be able to kind of get a grasp whether or not you will be able to carry out this migration. But for most users, you should be fine.
Yeah, and at the same time, I also want to say that I know the business development team and integrations team already have some of our partners who are large Psi holders ready to provide the initial liquidity for migration. So there will be definitely several million Dai within the first week definitely available. So there is a dependency on CDP migration. Depends on the amount of Psi that's in that migration contract.
Yeah. So another point when you migrate CDPs is that you need to pay down your stability fee that you have accrued in single collateral Dai, because in the old system, you don't pay as you go. You pay the stability fee when you pay down your debt. When I created this flowchart, the migration contract only allowed you to pay this in MKR. But now you will also be able to pay it down in Dai. So this is just important to note that if you want to migrate over, you'll have to pay your stability fee.
There's actually also even one more cool possibility. So Rune had mentioned this to me, that there's gonna be the chance either at launch or sometime after launch where if you're migrating your CDP, you can actually pay your stability fee with new debt on the CDP. So instead of actually paying down a stability fee, the system will just create or migrate your new CDP over, and your stability fee will be added to your generated Dai balance. So that is kind of a feature that is not guaranteed to be there just yet, but I know Rune was mentioning it. So something cool to look out for potentially.
Yeah, so I actually think it's a combination where you can use Dai in your wallet, and then you can essentially increase your debt. So it can also be a combination, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So before I dive into more here, I just want to kind of show the migration. So this is not the final UI, but here essentially, this is just to kind of show you what the process will look like when you go to migrate.makerdao.com at launch. The UI will be a little bit different, but here I have some, I will be able to redeem some single collateral Dai. So I'll try that. I have 24 Psi, so let's try and migrate 10. So yeah, I'm sending 10 single collateral Dai, and the exchange rate is 1-to-1. So I will receive 10 multi-collateral Dai. And you need to unlock the token in order to transfer it. But and then I accept. Yeah, this is on Koban. So yeah, you basically just submit a transaction with MetaMask or whatever wallet you are using. I don't know why it says the estimated time is 8 minutes. It's probably a little bit less, but that's because the migration contract is actually carrying out a lot of functions on the back end to make this happen. But yeah, it should be a fairly simple process where you just sign a transaction and that's it basically. I think maybe I actually did just an update. Yeah, so okay. This is what happens when you do live demos. Yeah, so it was moved over to a multi-collateral Dai. And then also have a few CDPs that I can migrate. So I have one here. Actually, I can showcase it over here. So in the CDP portal on Koban, I have the CDP 4755. And this is the one that shows up here. And I want to migrate it to the MCD system. So here you can see that in order to move it over, I have to pay a stability fee. So right now, it only allows me to do it with MKR, but as David noted, there will be an option to pay with Dai, either by increasing your debt or by paying out of your wallet.
Quick question. Where was the amount of Psi liquidity in the migration contract presented? Was it in that previous screen?
I remember that I saw it somewhere. Okay, so it's not here.
It might be in like a redrafted version.
Yeah, so actually that part is on our Oasis front end. So I can show that afterwards. But if you want to do a CDP migration, you just pay and migrate. And then the migration contract will basically do all the magic on the back end.
Very, very, very cool.
And yeah, that was it basically. So I think I should be able to see that CDP. So as I talked about earlier, we're launching the new front ends under the rebrand Oasis. So from the 18th, you will be able to find essentially the new CDP portal, the Maker vaults under Borrow, and the Dai savings rate under Save. So I think if I click into Borrow, yeah, I think it was this CDP that I just moved over. No, it's not. It was this one. Yeah. So this one had that 155 Dai debt. Yeah. So that had worked. But then now that we're here, let's try and make a new CDP, and let's use BAT because hey, we can use new tokens now. So I'll just deposit 20 BAT and I'll draw 1 Dai. That will give me a collateralization ratio of 473%. So that should be safe. So I can open a vault. So yeah, once that transaction is mined, then it should show up in the front end.
So if anybody on the call has any particular questions, if you're like a person who is self-integrated Psi, for instance, or if you're a user and like something that Nick has presented is like a little bit murky for you, feel free to jump in on the mic or feel free to like type in your questions. I'm happy to ask them for you.
So So just real quickly here. So that was the borrowing part of the system. You'll be able to find under Oasis borrow. But then the Dai savings rate, which we are very excited about, I just drew one multi-collateral Dai in this new vault. So if I go to save, then this is where I can deposit Dai into the Dai savings rate contract and earn savings. So again, this is very easy.
So Oasis, Save, Borrow, and Trade are actually going to be like on one solid front end. This is cool.
Yep.
I didn't even realize that.
So now I'm essentially depositing all the multi-collateral Dai that I have into the Dai savings rate contract, so I can earn savings. And again, if you're familiar with the front ends that exist now, then this should all be very intuitive for you. And yeah, as David said, you can actually navigate to the trade part here as well. I'm not sure if this is live right now. Okay, so yeah, this was actually the point that I wanted to show you, because on our Oasis trade, you'll also be able to upgrade Psi to Dai. So this is where I think there was somewhere where you could find the Psi liquidity. But anyways, under your account, you'll be able to upgrade a Psi. But okay, now because I just put all my my Dai into the savings rate contract, I don't have them in my wallet anymore, so I'll just withdraw them. I already earned some savings here, as you can see.
It's quite a lot of savings there.
Yeah. So if I go to account on Oasis, I should be able to. Okay, so I think they might have pushed an update, but essentially what I wanted to say was that if you want to downgrade Dai to Psi, which is an option.
I think that button popped up right when you switched.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is not an option at migrate.makerdao.com. So if you have multi-collateral Dai but would like to go back to single collateral Dai, then you can do that at Oasis by going to account, and then you can here we have Dai, and you can swap that for Psi. So that will allow you to go back, provided that there's still liquidity in the migration contract. So here I can go back. So I haven't actually tried this, so I'm not sure if this works, but
it's based on the deafening lack of questions. I feel that we've either one, explained this all really, really well, or two, there's just a lot of complexity here, and people might be a bit intimidated by the process. But I feel like we made the process super simple.
Yeah, so I mean, mostly what you need to do is just go to migrate.makerdao.com, and that will also take you to this page on Oasis if you want to do the Dai to Psi. So everything you need to do should be on that website.
Right.
So yeah, I guess we can take some questions. Otherwise, I just wanted to kind of go over how we have advised exchanges and decentralized exchanges to deal with migration. But perhaps if there are some questions for this in particular, then
I believe Annie Ruda was asking if you could share the slides or a link to view the slides after the call.
That's going to be a maybe for now.
Okay.
I think most of the information, or actually all of the information, you'll be able to find in a recent blog post regarding the launch. And then we have this migration guide in the developer guides repo that I can link in the chat, or perhaps someone else can link. But essentially, all of this information is in that migration guide and in that launch blog post. So I would look there.
Cool. I already posted links to the migration guide there, but I just posted the link to the blog post as well. And again, if any of you need resources, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at David Utro pretty much everywhere. Rocket Chat, Twitter, Reddit, wherever you like. Message me. I'm happy to connect you with the resources you need. And just like that, there's a question. So Haynes is saying, sorry if you already talked about it, but will the MKR be spent for the stability fee, or will there need to be a wallet?
Will there need to be a what? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry if you already talked about it, but will the MKR be spent for the stability fee, or will it just need to be in the wallet, I guess is what he's saying. No, it will be spent on the stability fee. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we tried to outline, at least, you will have different options in terms of paying down the stability fee. Where paying it in MKR will be one option. So that will be spent. But there will probably also be an option to pay it down in Dai, either by increasing your debt in the CDP or by spending Dai out of your wallet. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so the CDP will be reset. And the reason why this is because of the design difference in paying down the stability fee between the two systems, where in single collateral Dai, you only pay down a stability fee when you wipe some of your debt. Whereas in multi-collateral Dai, your stability fee will be paid as you go, as your debt just accrues automatically in your position. So the only way to migrate is to pay down the stability fee. Okay.
Right on.
So from the integrations team, we have been in touch with a lot of partners that have
Actually,
Dai.
hold on. Can I just pause you for 1 second? So, typically we go through like a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the space for the week. So there's about 10 minutes left in the call. We're not gonna get into that, but I do post all of the stuff into a public agenda document that you can feel free to check out. If you're watching this video online or after the fact, you could find it in the YouTube description, and also you could find it pretty much anywhere because the link doesn't change. So feel free to just scroll to the November 12th, and you could see everything there. It's all linked, and so yeah, if we don't get to it in this call, feel free to check out that doc. So yeah, sorry for interrupting you, Nick. Go right ahead.
No worries. Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of exchanges that currently list single collateral Dai, and these are all custodial wallets, and these are the guidelines that we have proposed. And I can say that a lot of exchanges are going to follow these. So on November 18, we proposed that they follow the naming scheme of the tokens. So they should rename the single collateral Dai token to Psi. And this is essentially just to avoid confusion of which token are you interacting with on the exchange and which token are you depositing. More importantly, we have tried to coordinate a date where a lot of centralized exchanges will migrate holdings of single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai on behalf of their users. And for a lot of exchanges, this is going to happen on the 2nd of December, so 2 weeks after the launch. And this essentially means that that migration contract that we talked about before will have a lot of single collateral Dai liquidity on this date. So if you are in a position where you have a CDP with a very large debt, then I would advise you to try to migrate on this date if you have not been able to do so beforehand, because we expect a good liquidity pool from exchanges moving over, essentially.
Are you able to migrate in chunks if you have a big CDP?
Not through the Maker front ends, no. I know that there are some community projects that have tried to build this. I know that InstaDApp has been working on a bridge, but I'm not sure where they are with that. And I will say that use third-party services at your own risk. But that one, I know that those guys are working on a sort of a good gradual migration process. But through the Maker front ends, you will have to move your entire CDP in one go.
And then one more question from Annie Ruda. He's saying, do you have information on whether lending protocols like Compound are going to integrate DSR for locking part of the Dai supply in a fixed income instrument, i.e. DSR?
No, we do not have any information regarding the DSR. We have been in touch with Compound regarding support for MCD, and they also created a blog post outlining their timelines. So yeah, I would suggest looking at their different outlets for information on this. Yeah.
So I'll link their Medium in the chat for you.
So essentially, what we have recommended for centralized exchanges is for them to, on the 2nd of December, to freeze SAI deposits and withdrawals, and then use the migration app or contract to upgrade all user holdings of SAI to Dai, and then essentially update the code base to support the new Dai token, and then rename the listing to Dai, and then unfreeze deposits and withdrawals. So we are essentially asking centralized exchanges to migrate their users over, because we think that most users would probably want to be migrated, and here we avoid that someone have idle funds sitting in an exchange for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden, if single collateral Dai is shut down in the future, then that token will no longer be a stable coin. So if the user want a stable coin, then they should migrate over. But this 2-week period from launch to the migration also allows any user to essentially withdraw the SAI out of the exchange if they do not want to be migrated. So that's an important point as well. And then we also we encourage exchanges to let their users know about the Dai savings rate. For decentralized exchanges, essentially the most important part is that they rename single collateral Dai to SAI as well, to avoid this confusion between the tokens. And then we also encourage them to list Dai as quickly as possible. And most DEXs that I have been in touch with are aiming to launch support for multi-collateral Dai as soon as it's live. Essentially, we're also recommending that or at least that they disable side trading in the UI, in sort of to incentivize the use of the new token as well. And then we also, we have really been trying to get partners to inform the users about where they can redeem SAI for Dai. But some of these partners are also going to offer this migration process in their own UI. So this is also something that we have tried to help out different partners on how can they implement this migration process in their own UI, so they don't need to send their user to another website. And then in the same process, some of these partners also are building UIs to essentially enable the DSR straight from their own service as well. Yeah, we are running a bit out of time, so I'll just say that we are preparing a blog post where we are more specific about the timelines of different exchange partners on this. So hopefully it will be a little bit more clear if you have Dai in a specific exchange or using a specific DEX or something like that, what their timelines are. But otherwise, I would suggest that you just be on the lookout for what information the service provider that you are using are giving on this matter. But the integrations team has really tried to inform everyone on this. So hopefully, whichever service you're using, they should be ready to support MCD, and they have a timeline for this once we launch. So I would stay tuned to the blog post that will go live sometimes this week from our end on the partner timelines, but also from the partners that you are using. So in the migration guide then that David posted in the chat, there's for all these different partner types what we recommend. So if you're interested, I would go take a look there. Yeah, so basically we have for a lot of different ones. The most important ones are the most important aspect is really this renaming of a single collateral Dai to Psi. That helps a lot of confusion, and then obviously supporting the new Dai token is the main thing for most of the partners. And then obviously there are some partners who have more sophisticated integrations with the Maker protocol that they need to update. But yeah, there are guidelines for all those kind of partner types that we have outlined in the migration guide. So just to give a really quick update or a recap here, November 15, there's going to be the Secure Governance vote, essentially, to whether or not MCD should be launched on November 18. And this is also when the smart contracts will be published at the changelog.makerdao.com. And specifically, you'll be able to find the new Dai token contract under this name here. And then if MCD is voted in as to be launched, then it should go live at around 4 p.m. UTC on November 18. And the front ends will be live at oasis.app. On this date, single collateral Dai will be renamed to Psi, multi-collateral Dai will be Dai, and the migration app for token migration and CDPs will be live at migrate.makerdao.com. And this is like, for most users, this web page should be enough. Yeah. And then from November 18 and a week forward, this is when we suggest that most of our partner types add support for MCD. And you can read the specific guidelines in our migration guide. And on the 2nd of December is when we have suggested that a lot of the centralized exchanges and custodial wallets will carry out this Psi to Dai migration on behalf of their users. So those are the most important dates. So yeah, that was it for me. It was a bit long, but I hope it was informational nonetheless. So,
yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much for coming on the call, Nikolai. So yeah, if anybody has any final questions, I'm happy to keep the call open for an extra few minutes. And if not, thank you guys for coming. I hope this was valuable to you all. And the recording will be posted in about an hour or two. Cool. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.